That was recorded, Julie.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Family Ties podcast. My name's Julia Avery, and this is my sister and co-host.
This is Kelley, the Battle Maiden. I am joining you guys for episode 20.
What? Nice.
I know.
We're getting up there.
I know. I figured I'd just shout that one out. Today, we are going to be covering another homeschooling gone wrong case. But, Julie, before we dig into that, do you have any shout outs for this week? It's been pretty loaded in a lot of different ways.
Shout outs for this week. Like what?
Like anything that's happened, any do yourself a favors. What you got?
I didn't have to work this weekend, and it was great. I had a great time not being at work. Really counting my blessings here. Oh, on Thursday night, the finale for Raised by Wolves came out.
I'm a few episodes behind. I'll get there.
Oh, shit. It's so weird. I love it. It's so weird and different, and I love it. And so well done.
Good. I'm excited. I am excited for tonight's
Lovecraft Country.
Yes, Lovecraft Country. Shout out Lovecraft Country. And guys, it's officially October, and I've started my Halloween movie marathon. So I watched last night. A couple nights ago, I watched one a Shudder original called Spiral. Really good.
You're probably going to hear me burping throughout. I've got these little burps. They keep popping up, and I'm like suppressing them.
It's okay. Let them out. Let them fly. We're not ladies here. And then, so then last night I watched this one called Like Me, and I knew it was going to be a wild ride. It looked really kind of trippy, cerebral, but I've been thinking about it since last night. Like I woke up and I was thinking about it, and I think it's got a really interesting underlying message. Of course, like I'll give you guys a brief description and maybe you'll check it out. But this young girl goes on this kind of crime spree that she videos. So she starts out with this video where she is harassing this gas station clerk and like won't stop filming him. And then she pulls out a gun on him and makes him get on the floor and is, being really intimidating. And he like pees his pants. Like he's being attacked. And they kind of get into a tussle, and he ends up getting the gun away from her, and it's not loaded. She's just fucking with him. But she posts this video onto the internet, and it, like, of course, everybody starts commenting, and everybody's got an opinion, and some people think it's funny. Some people are calling her a monster. So she continues. She just keeps going, and the progression of that is interesting and really creepy and unsettling. And it seems like it wasn't this heavy-handed, like, technology and our culture as to how we consume these kind of, I guess the way people look at live leak videos. So it was super interesting. I would challenge everybody to watch it. It's not like a straight up scary, spooky. It's kind of a twist on like somebody who kind of terrorizes other people for pleasure.
Wow. What is the name of it?
Like Me. I think it could have been, it's definitely very artsy. There's a couple sequences. If you guys have epilepsy, don't watch it because you will have a seizure. But I loved it. I thought it was great. It had some promising moments, but I felt like if it had a bigger budget, it probably could have accomplished what it wanted to. So Shudder, guys. It's amazing. Get it.
Sweet.
All right.
Speaking of October, I've ordered my Halloween costume. So Heather, Kevin, Kira, and I are going together into a Tiger King theme.
Stop it.
Heather's going to be Carol Baskin.
Stop it right now.
Kevin is going to be the Tiger King. Kira and I are going to be tigers. Kira's already got her little tiger suit, and the cheapest thing I could find that wasn't slutty, and I don't have the body for the slutty costumes either, was this like tiger print tunic kind of thing that you wear with leggings, and it says "I'm a tiger, duh," and it comes with tiger ears, and then I got a tiger mask for the nose and the mouth, and so I'm just gonna
That is epically great. And my idea for you guys is like Kira could be Carol Baskin's tiger, and then you could be the Tiger King's tiger, and you guys could have like this little rivalry where you're just talking shit at each other.
Yeah. We really wanted to get Kevin the bomber jacket that said EMS on the back.
Uh-huh.
That moment where they that lady that works on their on the grounds lost her arm.
Yeah.
And that whole mauling incident happened, and he put on his jacket that had the emergency care, like medical care.
Yeah.
We're like, where the fuck did he get this jacket? Why is he wearing it?
Well,
he's not a medical professional.
Nope. Okay, so
it was just a show for him. He was like, and this is my next scene. Where's my jacket?
I feel like Kevin has more of a vibe of the guy who's got the harem of women and the long hair.
The harem of he doesn't have long hair.
Harem of women. Yes, he kind of the Australian hat, and he has all the elephants and all of his cult of girls.
Oh, really?
I get more of that vibe from Kevin.
Oh, okay. Before Tiger King came out, somebody showed me the Instagram page of Dr. Annel's son, Cody Annel. And I've been like following his page. Like, I love his videos of him and the animals there. And then I watched this and I'm like, fuck.
Oh boy. Well,
what did I think I was following? And so it totally changed my perspective. And now I see these videos and I'm like, you fucking monsters.
So Julia and I will be talking about Halloween pretty much every week from here on out, because it is my favorite holiday of the entire year, and I do take it very seriously. Today, after this, I'm going to be decorating the hell out of this place. But
do it.
But I will.
It's not October, it's Spooktober.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what voice that was.
I don't know. That was exciting.
Spooktober.
I'm going to be recycling last year's Halloween costume because it couldn't be more timely, you all. It's RBG.
Oh,
I dissent.
Kelley.
Hats off, moment of silence for one of my big heroes. Okay. Now, let's get into some
I was really trying not to burp and ruin that.
Thank you. Thank you for being respectful. I would have been really sad if you'd done that.
I would have been very disrespectful.
So today, guys, we are discussing, and this is a really convoluted story, so we're going to try and break it down in a way that I've found lots of different articles about this case for Homeschooling Gone Wrong, Part 3, and we are discussing the Sarah and Jennifer Hart and their 6 children murder case. This is pretty recent, more recent than I think, people would believe. But anyways, so we're going to discuss this, but I found an article that had a timeline for this. So we're going to go through the timeline, and then I've interspersed some other articles and things that I found in between. So we'll kind of go through, hopefully from beginning to end, in a way that's understandable. But this
story is crazy.
It is crazy. And I wanted to be fair, you guys, I'm trying to cover everything, but this is not a religious-based crime. This is like these ladies were big activists, and I'm using air quotes. They're big activists. They're big
Bernie supporters.
people,
And when I heard that, my heart sank.
didn't it?
I was like, come on, people.
I mean, guys, for those who can see, Bernie's on my wall.
I need to get a Bernie tattoo. I want to get like the one with the hair.
The outline, yeah.
Yeah.
And the glasses. I like it. Let's do it. Next time we're together, let's get twinsies. Twinsy tattoos?
Yes.
Okay. Deal. All right, guys, we're going to dive into this. So, during March of 2004, that is the earliest known public record that shows Jennifer Hart and Sarah Gengler, both from South Dakota, residing in Alexandria, Minnesota. So that's the first public record that they were in Minnesota.
The next one is from the following year, April 2005. The couple is licensed to provide child foster care in Douglas County, Minnesota for almost 2 years, beginning April 1st of 2005.
So in May of 2005, Sarah Hart petitions to change her last name from Gengler to Hart. So they are a same-sex couple, and they seem to be pretty progressive.
Yeah. So then the following year again, September this time, 2006, Jennifer and Sarah Hart adopt siblings, Marcus, Abigail, and Hannah. According to Homeschooling's Invisible Children article, siblings Marcus, Hannah, and Abigail were adopted from Colorado County, Texas in September 2006 and went to live with the Harts in Alexandria, Minnesota.
So in September of 2008, according to a police report from Alexandria, Minnesota, Hannah, then 6 years old, told authorities that one of her mothers bruised her with a belt. Asked about the beating, Jennifer and Sarah Hart tell a police investigator and social worker the girl had fallen down the stairs. So during this time, this whole investigation, 6-year-old Hannah, she was a student at Washington Elementary School. She reported to school authorities that Jennifer had struck her arm with a belt, leaving bruises. Teachers also noticed that Hannah was hungry at school. When CPS investigated, the Harts claimed Hannah was lying.
Damn. In February 2009, Jennifer and Sarah adopt Devontae and 2 of his siblings, bringing their number of children to 6. An article from Paper Trail, a New Zealand-based news outlet, describes his adoption. The article said by age 4, the boy had been abused, neglected, shot at, and had endured other traumas. The 4th child, Dante Davis, is not adopted by the Harts. Siblings Devontae, Jeremiah, and Sierra were adopted shortly thereafter from Harris County, Texas in February 2009. Within 2 months of the CPS investigation, the Harts pulled the 3 oldest children, Marcus, Hannah, and Devontae, out of school to homeschool them. In November 2010, police in Alexandria, Minnesota, interview Abigail Hart, 6 at the time, after a teacher discovers bruises stretching from her sternum to her navel. The girl says Jennifer Hart hit her with a closed fist, put her head in a cold bath, then hit her again. Court records show. She was then grounded. The girl told police, which meant she had to stay in bed and miss lunch. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
And I did not include the article, the New Zealand article from Paper Trail. It was of course, before all this happened, and it was so worshiping of these ladies, and all I got from that article was white savior complex, and I could not. So guys, just before I go into this further, all 6 kids are children of color, and you get this strong white savior vibe from these ladies. And I feel like their use of activism is just another way for them to disguise their actions. I think it's very, very well calculated.
Disgusting.
So in an article by The Oregonian, it's called Hart Family Deaths Show Again How Much Homeschool Children Need Caseworkers' Vigilance.
Mm-hmm.
So They report that years before Devonte Hart told neighbors his parents withheld food from him as punishment, his younger sister, who was then 6 years old, told police and a social worker she would not be given meals when she misbehaved. In a 2010 interview with authorities, Abigail Hart also said one of her mothers had struck her with a closed fist and later placed her in a cold bath before hitting her again in a fit of anger. The girl said Jennifer then dragged her into the bathroom and submerged her head under cold water in the bathtub. Afterward, Abigail said she was spanked repeatedly, imitating her mother's hand with a clenched fist. She was later grounded, a punishment that would sometimes include missed meals, she said. When asked what happened, when she gets grounded, she stated that she has to stay in her bed and has no lunch, the report reads.
These sound like tactics used for illegal interrogations.
Yeah. Just short of waterboarding.
Basically.
Yeah. She also stated that she had missed lunch the past Saturday. No one else in the house witnessed the abuse, Abigail told police. She said her other mother, Sarah, later saw the bruises and placed an ointment on them. Abigail added that Mom Jen spanks the most and acts tough when she's upset with the children, according to the police report. Police and social workers also interviewed some of Abigail's siblings, whose names were redacted from the records obtained by the Oregonian/Oregon Live. And let me just say that the fact it seems clear that Jennifer is a more abusive parent, but Sarah is also complicit for sure.
Complicit.
Yeah.
Complicit.
But I mean, we're going to learn here that just like a missed lunch is way more than that is happening here. It's like it's kind of like with our mom, where misbehavior can be as simple as a glare or a look. So
it doesn't even have to be a real look. It's just in her head.
A look she doesn't like. So misbehaving could mean any number of things, more so than actually being bad. So go ahead.
Yeah. So in April 2011, Sarah Hart pleads guilty to abusing Abigail Hart and is sentenced to a year of probation for misdemeanor domestic assault, court records show. Sarah told police she was the one who hit Abigail, even though the girl told authorities her mother Jennifer had done it. The next day, all 6 of the Hart children are taken out of public schools. They never attend public school again. And it sounds like Jennifer's just a fucking bully. It sounds like a domestic situation with Sarah too. To have that sense of responsibility to feel compelled to take the blame for them. There's some manipulation going on there as well. I'm not absolving her of any guilt at all, but I do sense a domestic situation between her and Jennifer as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's super interesting. And like literally, like the second that happens, the kids are pulled from public school. That
huge red flag.
Huge red flag. How, like, everything that happens, you're like, surely now they're going to realize. Surely now somebody's going to pick up on this, and there has to be some safeguard in place. But that is what this is all about. There are no safeguards for kids in general. And, you know, when we pretend that there are, I have done such extensive research, Julia, in the past couple of days, just in, I've looked into Oregon's their child protective services and their failings and why that is and where the failure is coming from. And boy, is it interesting. And I mean, this isn't just unique to Oregon.
Well, and I'd think this also, their whole activist approach might have been off-putting for child services or to anybody brought into the case. Because
I doubt anybody cared. I really don't. So
yeah, because it's probably like these kids are probably trying to just like cause an upset or whatever, and you know these are good parents. They're trying to do good things.
We'll get into the why this keeps falling through the cracks, and it's even more depressing than that. Okay, so in October of 2011, the family lives in Alexandria, Minnesota for a time and takes part in local activism. Hart family members, including Devontae and Jennifer Hart, participate in an Occupy Minneapolis demonstration. I found this great piece called "In Withering." It's called "Withering Under the White Gaze." By Deep Green Philly. And he or she writes that the white gaze is the product of a culture that automatically centers whiteness and gives white people the benefit of the doubt. The white gaze not only sees the world in terms of centering the experience and desires of white people, it also automatically categorizes the colonized individual as either nefarious or as a poor, poor thing in need of rescuing. In the latter case, we often find the white savior, and from the comments and behaviors of the parents, it is crystal clear that Devontae Hart and his siblings were viewed through this lens. They give an example, and it's from that article, that New Zealand article. And they say, Devontae Hart entered the world 12 years ago with drugs pumping through his tiny newborn body. By the time he was 4 years old, he had smoked, consumed alcohol, handled guns, been shot at, and suffered severe abuse and neglect. He knew only a handful of words, including fuck and shit, and he struggled to identify with the names of food, body parts, and everyday objects. Devontae was a violent toddler, and his health was weighed down by a heavy list of disabilities. So that whole snippet was in that New Zealand article in a way that shows like, oh my God, look at what these ladies did for this kid.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So his adopted parents imagined themselves as the noble and selfless white people intervening to save these downtrodden black children, plucking them from the muck and mire and elevating them to the status of real people, similar to how the blue fairy transforms wooden Pinocchio into a real human boy. But this transformation, this elevation, could only happen on their twisted terms, which is why Devontae Hart and his siblings were made to perform for the cameras like trained monkeys. And boy, if you look at photos of these kids at any of these, like Jennifer was prolific on the social medias. She knew how to create that perfect vision of normalcy and progressivism. So it was all this big fake. And
they were basically just props.
Yeah, she knew how to weave it.
Wow. So in 2012, according to friends of theirs in Oregon, Sarah Hart travels to Portland to look for work, but Jennifer Hart and their children later join her, so they stay back a little bit. That's scary, knowing what we do about Jennifer.
Yes.
Being the one to stay back with them.
Yeah, she seems to have a big control issue.
Wow.
So then in 2013, after the family moves to West Lynn, family friend Alexandra Argyropoulos tells Oregon child welfare officials that the Hart parents have been depriving their kids of food as punishment, she says. The Harts break off contact with her when they learn of it. Argyropoulos says she was told that the Hart children had been interviewed by Oregon officials. It was apparent that each child had been coached by their mothers on what to say, and nothing more could be done by the Oregon Department of Human Services. Fuck. And I don't buy it. You could do something, and it all comes down to what we'll discuss later.
Yeah.
Keep that in
Another
your back pocket.
article by the Oregonian. Is it Oregonian or Oregonian? Okay. I said it right the first time.
I think.
Sorry, I celebrate little wins like that because I fuck up. Sorry. Devontae Hart family crash. Friend who reported mom's pushes for child abuse artistry reveals that Argyropoulos said she contacted Oregon's Department of Human Services in July 2013 after being alarmed by the parents' treatment of their children during two visits of the Hart family, which was then living in West Lynn, made to her Bay Area home. On the second trip, Jennifer Hart and the 6 children stayed for 2 weeks without Sarah. That's when Argyropoulos says she witnessed the mom act unnecessarily cruel toward her kids. I noticed that she ran her family like a regimented boot camp, where true kindness, love, and respect for the children was largely absent, Argyropoulos said. She said Jennifer Hart disciplined the children if they laughed loudly or took a small piece of food without permission. As punishment, some weren't allowed to talk for the day. Others had to stand in a corner and stare at a wall for extended periods of time. But what most alarmed Argyropoulos was that Hart repeatedly withheld meals from the children, who appeared constantly hungry. When the host confronted the mother, Hart said her kids had issues with food before adoption. I was disturbed to see her eat larger meals in front of the children when I knew that food was being withheld from them, Argyropoulos said. Oh, fuck.
That's blatant. That's just
Wow.
cruel. That's intentional cruelty. I just can't. So going back to the other article,
I'm just still taken aback by that complex that. So Jennifer not only has control issues, and also white savior issues, but she also has this complex of just kind of, she seems to take pleasure in torture.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really dark. So then Oregon child welfare workers who checked on the 6 children had a reason to be extra vigilant. After the horrific 2009 death of a homeschooled Eugene, Oregon girl who'd been beaten and starved, which we will probably cover at a later date, Oregon officials vowed to train every caseworker to dig deeper when checking on children, isolated from the watchful eyes of teachers or other adults. But delays meant Clackamas County child welfare workers were not equipped to faithfully follow through on that promise in time to help the Hart children. They didn't get adequate training until late in 2013, a year and a half after a promised deadline. In the meantime, an outside review and the abuse death of another homeschooled child reinforced the perils posed by holes in Oregon's systems. Caseworkers' actions are particularly critical to homeschooled children. Oregon's hands-off approach to homeschooling means that child welfare is often the only agency to make contact with highly isolated children who may be subject to serious mistreatment at home. In July 2013, Oregon's Department of Human Services received a report that Jennifer and Sarah Hart's children were at risk. West Linn police records show. Alexandra Argyropoulos, a Bay Area woman who said she was friends with the Harts at the time, said she reported the family after being alarmed by the parents' treatment of the children. So basically what they're giving us a brief insight as to Oregon had already been in a lot of trouble for all these kids slipping through the cracks, but their hands-off approach to homeschooling in general, it's like we next week we'll get into all the laws and why they can't seem to get their act together. But it's very interesting. Like I'll go ahead and just say that one of the things I'm seeing is that, the perpetual issue of being understaffed, underfunded, and not being able to respond to these cases in any kind of adequate time frame. Those are just a few of the things plaguing the Child Protective Services and their
What's
welfare.
disturbing about that is that there's actually plenty of funding to go around. It's just not proportionally.
Well, like Rachel Coleman
granted.
said 2 weeks ago, we have we invest more money into our military and our prison system. It's clear where our priorities lie.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, continue. Blah, I'm angry.
I know. Me too. And sometimes, like when we're getting into these cases and the details and everything, sometimes I'm just so blinded with rage. Like I don't really have anything intelligent to say because all I'm thinking of is like, I just imagine being able to go in there as a caseworker and just fucking get those kids out of that situation. And I'm like, the signs are clear. Like how I just want to go fix. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like no words can fix what happened. And the fact that,
yeah,
what's done is done.
Yeah.
Anyway, July 2013, the police department responds to a call to the Hart's house. Argyropoulos, the former friend, said authorities told her the children had been interviewed and were likely coached in their responses. During my last call, I was told that their hands were tied and there was nothing more that they could do because there wasn't enough evidence to make a case, Argyropoulos said. I feel that the social worker took my report seriously and felt as defeated as I did. Records and interviews with friends and neighbors show Jennifer and Sarah Hart were repeatedly accused of depriving their children meals as punishment over the years. One of their children, Abigail, told Minnesota authorities in 2010 that Jennifer Hart withheld food from her when she misbehaved, according to a police report. Is that not enough? Like, how many people's separate accounts of this happening needs to come together for you to substantiate a claim?
Well,
like, what evidence are you looking for? What evidence
that plagues this case?
Would you have to wait till they're emaciated?
Well, even that's not enough, Julia.
No, because
we learn about that later.
The Christiana Glenn case that we had, they were clearly starved, and still nothing happened until they died.
Well, and even though, like in the Joseph Hall case, that Child Protective Services were called over 21 times, the fact is that, some of the calls had been made in a different state. And one thing that we now know, and that, you guys should know as well, is that Child Protective Services, they've had trouble getting, which we'll go into much more discussion later. They don't share information with each other. So there's no database that, if in one state a child is getting abused and then there's reports in another state.
That doesn't follow then? Like a
No, it does
normal
not.
record? No. Are you kidding me?
But in Joseph Hall's
so you can
case,
kind of like police unions, just kind of clean the slate and then move to another state.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
And in this particular case, it's not as bad, but like in the case of Joseph Hall, it was more than evident. I mean, there was I don't know how much more of a case you need. I really don't. So across the board, I see nothing but glaring failures. I don't see any successes. And before I continue, let me just remind you, I'm going back to this. I found this quote in it. Oh my gosh, it killed me. And I had put it in a previous article about saving, about how, actually, I will find it right now because I think it's important. And I while you're listening to this case, I want you to remember this quote at the back of your mind, this statistic. I don't know, Julia. While I find it, you go ahead. It's just going to take me a quick second.
Where do you want me to pick up?
Oh, you just, because I was just going to have you talk, but I think I'm close. Okay. I am close. I'm so sorry, guys.
These cases, it's just, it's absolutely maddening. Absolutely maddening because there are plenty of opportunities for solutions to be put into place, for things to be done to save the situation, save the children, etc., or to be at least a step in the right direction. But then it's just, I think, like you were saying, just blatant just oversight and just disregard. Yes. And it's more than just disturbing because, like, we have the capabilities. There are capabilities for this to be done correctly. And it's just, they're not important enough. That's all it comes down to.
I found it. Yes. And in that vein, the recent National Incidence Survey conducted by the Department of Health and Human Services found that 72% of all reports received by CPS, basically that comes to of 2,160,000 reports of abuse or neglect, 72% were never investigated by CPS.
72%. What is that number? What was the number again?
So of like 2,160,000 reported cases, 72% of those are never investigated.
What is 72% of that number?
Are you doing the math?
Yeah, give me a second. Hold on.
While you do that,
percentage calculator.
It also says that of those cases reported, an estimated roughly 1,300 children died from abuse or neglect, and 90% of those children were age 5 or younger, and 42% of the children who died had been previously reported to CPS as being in danger. I cannot overstate the urgency of reform in this area. Like, I don't know why we're not all talking about this constantly.
Okay, you said 72% of 2 million?
Of 2,160,000.
Okay. 2 million.
So that's like one report every 10 seconds. Oh, and of
Okay,
those,
that's 1,555,000. And why is this not working? There's an ad that's trying to
so
with me.
guys, so almost half of all the children who are confirmed as abused or neglected did not receive any follow-up assistance from CPS. That your mind should be exploding right now. That is massive. Just think about
1,555,200 weren't even.
If you guys think that's acceptable, then maybe I'm just off my rocker.
Is that reports or per person?
Either
way, it's mind-blowingly.
Yeah.
Like, that's just an astronomical amount to not take care of.
So just keep that in your back pocket, guys. So moving to November of 2014, family members participate in a Portland protest of a Missouri grand jury declining to indict a Ferguson police officer in the fatal shooting of Michael Brown. Devontae and a Portland police officer hug, and the photo of the moment goes viral, which you may remember that.
Staged.
So gross. Julie, did you see the photo?
Mm-hmm.
Did it make you ill?
Yeah.
Made me ill. In the article titled The Withering Under the White Gaze, The Hart Family Tragedy by Deep Green Philly for Medium, he writes that Devontae Hart is known as a boy who was photographed in 2014 hugging a police officer with tears in his eyes. In the midst of rising racial tensions, this image of Devontae's heartwarming hug was paraded through the media as proof of possible reconciliation between Black people, the police, and white society at large. Others looked on this propaganda and were either skeptical or alarmed, especially when other images from that day were released. Other images that show a clearly troubled boy possibly being coerced into doing something he did not want to do. We later learned that the officer receiving the hug is a supporter of Darren Wilson, the cop who murdered Michael Brown. Looking back, this scenario is incredibly grotesque. Devontae was at a protest against Darren Wilson and police impunity being forced to hug a Darren Wilson supporting cop. His instincts were right, but he was forced to embrace someone who fully supported the systematic oppression of his own people. The circumstances surrounding Devontae Hart's viral video and the general response to it is a classic example of the white gaze and how it filters and interprets reality. The white gaze as a phenomenon has been brilliantly summed up by the novelist and scholar Toni Morrison. As if our lives have no meaning and no depth without the white gaze.
Oh,
oof.
And that staged photo, just the idea of that kind of image to try to bring everyone around is ridiculous to me, because what is a hug like that? A four-staged hug does not equal reconciliation. You can simply do that to look good for a second, but nothing real is happening.
Yeah.
And the fact that happens all the time.
Yes.
Staging photos in that manner to make something seem like something's being done, but it isn't, and it's just either for attention or to further a message.
Are you trying to stall from reading the next section?
No, but I am now.
God.
Um, un- Unfortunately, guys, the harsh truth is on March 2016, this family joined U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont on stage during a presidential campaign rally in Vancouver. How? How did they get that time with him and we did it?
I know. That was my takeaway too. But in May 2017, Jennifer and Sarah Hart buy a 2-story, 3-bedroom home on 2 acres of land in the woodland area of Clark County, Washington. Property records show. I don't know how close that is to Portland, but I'm assuming that I don't know.
Seems kind of country, probably farther out.
Yeah, they're clearly trying to shuffle
Get away.
Yeah.
Isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2 acres is a good piece of it's obviously not a lot, but it's a good piece if you're trying to start moving away from, being close to other people who can be within listening distance, hearing distance.
Yeah.
Anyway, November 2017. Kelley, how do you say his last name? Furkovich?
Skrovich? Skrovich? I don't know. Skrovich?
Steve, what's his name?
Skrovich?
A relative of the Hart's neighbors tells the dispatcher that he is concerned about the children. Wow, so this isn't even the neighbor. It's a relative of the neighbor.
Exactly. Okay.
He tells the dispatcher that he is concerned about the children. He says he feels the kids are being highly abused and recounts Hannah Hart jumping out a window and seeking help. The incident happened a few months prior to his call to authorities, and a neighbor, what's his name's daughter, says there have been no other issues since that one. I'm sorry, I have to laugh along with things like this too. It's a survival complex for me. Laughter along with terror.
Yeah.
To survive.
It is a defense
coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I hope everybody was able to follow that. So Bruce and Dana DeKalb, who lived next door, said they rarely spoke with the family. Dana DeKalb and Devontae had come to their home a dozen times to ask for food, saying his parents had withheld it as punishment. This is a theme, guys. It's not a false report. It's a common theme that's lasted for years. Sorry, side note. She recounted how Devontae's requests for food escalated. First, he asked if the DeKalbs had any tortillas. The next morning, he came back and asked if they had any bread. She didn't, but she gave him a bunch of tortillas. He later came back asking for more. Then he asked for peanut butter, then a case of peanut butter, non-perishables. The list went on. He was eventually coming over 3 times per day. DeKalb told him she'd have to call for help, and on last Thursday night, she said the boy's first words when he came to the door were, "Have you called?" I almost got the feeling he was more of, "What are you waiting for, lady?" And much more do I have to tell you. She and her husband decided the situation was more serious than teens needing extra food, and she called authorities. The DeKalbs also recounted that 3 months after the family moved into a home on 2 acres last May, one of the girls rang their doorbell in the middle of the night. The girl, Hannah Hart, was at our door in a blanket saying we needed to protect her. Bruce DeKalb said. She said that they were abusing her.
Why didn't you call then?
Exactly. For a child to come to your house, you're basically a stranger just living next door.
We'll call the cops over a sound complaint. Anyways.
Yeah, people will call for like the smallest things, like annoyances, but when it comes to real shit, people are like,
hesitating. When it deals with families,
should I do it?
Going back to what Rachel said in our conversation, it's just that people have this knee-jerk reaction to not get involved with the family. Like whatever's happening in the family is their business, and we have to get over that. It's too much. If you see something, you say something, guys. Please don't disappoint us. In March March 23rd of 2018, the Washington State Department of Social and Health Services opens a Child Protective Services investigation in which the Hart children are identified as potential victims of alleged abuse and neglect. Okay.
Potential.
Uh-huh. Yeah. All right.
All right. Same day, the Washington State Department of Social and Health Services attempts without success to make contact with the family. Withering under the white gaze. Is this an article, Kelley?
Yeah.
One of the most difficult aspects of the Hart family tragedy to comprehend is why these women chose to starve their children. Days before his disappearance, Devontae had gone to his next-door neighbor begging for food. This begging continued for 5 days in a row, and he was asking for food not only for himself, but for his siblings as well. Here are the estimated weights and heights of the 3 missing children who were not recovered from the crash site. Devontae Hart, 5'1", 90 pounds.
He was 15.
15 years old. Sarah Hart, 4'5", 60 pounds, 15 years old. Hannah Hart, 4'1", 45 pounds.
How is this
16 years old?
How do you not yank these kids out of the house right?
What other evidence did you fucking need?
I'm losing hope in humanity. Like every second. Like
I'm not even able, like, did they have any meat on their bones?
I mean, just read the next sentence.
It says, these are nowhere near age-appropriate stats for children of their age or heights, okay? They were being starved. They were literally withering away.
It was more than just a withheld meal here and there as punishment. We got stuff like that taken. Like I'd go without lunch or dinner if I did some kind of infraction. I mean, but that wasn't. It was regular.
With that, like you didn't look like you hadn't eaten.
No,
I've didn't look like you had been in like a.
You don't lose 30, 60 pounds in like just from a couple skipped meals a week.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. Such interactions prompted the DeKalbs to contact authorities. A Clark County deputy accompanied Cowlitz County Child Protective Services to the Hart family's home Friday, but nobody answered the door. The family and its GMC Yukon were gone the next day. Bruce DeKalb says, on Monday, a passerby along California's Route 1 in Mendocino County discovered the SUV upside down at the bottom of a 100-foot cliff.
I can't even. On March 24th of 2018, Sarah Hart sends a 3 a.m. text message to a friend saying she's so sick, she might have to go to the hospital. The friend, Cheryl Hart, never hears from Sarah again.
What do you think that is? Do you think that she is part of the whole being abused thing and that was a cry for help?
Well, like I said, I think that she was part of a domestic abuse situation. I don't take away any blame from her for
definitely not
continuing the abuse and allowing it to perpetuate. But domestic abuse manipulation is a real thing. There's a reason why it's so hard for people to do the right thing and get away from situations like that. Jennifer is a fucking bully and a terror. Jennifer
more than a
bully.
Train. Yeah. So
she led this train.
On the same day, it says the family is in or around Newport, Oregon, around 8:14 a.m. The police say it's believed they continue south on Route 101 until they reach State Route 1 in Leggett, California.
Same day, March 24th, 2018, the Harts travel south on State Route 1 until they reach the Fort Bragg area in Mendocino around 8 p.m. The family stays there until about 9 p.m., March 25th, 2018.
So, on March 26th, Cheryl Hart calls the Clark County emergency dispatcher. Cheryl was the friend Sarah contacted about being sick. Contacted the emergency dispatcher at 1:15 p.m. asking the Clark County Sheriff's Office to do a welfare check at the family's Woodland, Washington home.
real quick. I've sent I've had some communications with friends before where we're not doing the best. But, I don't feel the need to call for a welfare check.
Right.
This friend also knew what was going on. They
100%.
fucking knew.
100%.
For them to go from this one text message about being sick, they might need to go to a hospital, to then assuming something was wrong. Yeah. They knew it wasn't her needing to go to the hospital for sickness. They knew that. That's why there's a welfare check, and I hold them responsible as well.
I hold any adults who saw something going on here but didn't say anything responsible. Thank God for Alexandra Argyropoulos. Seriously. There's more that I have to say on her in a little bit.
Okay, so March 26, 2018, the Washington State Department of Social and Health Services again unsuccessfully attempts to make contact with the Hart family.
A passerby, same day, along Highway 1 in Westport, California, calls 911 after looking down a 100-foot embankment and seeing a SUV upside down. On the rocky shoreline. 5 people are found dead. 3 children outside the SUV and 2 women inside. So that means 3 of the kids are just missing here. They, haven't been found.
March 27, 2018, the Washington State Department of Social and Health Services makes a third unsuccessful attempt to contact the Hart family.
So nobody's in communication. It's clearly, I feel like there has to be a way that law enforcement and social services and all these, law enforcement, even from county to county, there has to be some way they're on the same page.
It sounds like no one's in communication with each other.
Nobody. Anyway, so on March 28th, the women are identified by the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office as Jennifer and Sarah Hart, and their children as Marcus, Jeremiah, and Abigail. 3 of their other children, Devontae, Hannah, and Sierra, remain missing. Sheriff Tom Allman said a search is ongoing for the remaining children.
On March 29th, 2018, the next day, police continue to search for the 3 missing children, including Devontae, and to investigate why the SUV plunged off the California cliff. Authorities don't know if the kids were also in the car, but are basing their search on the assumption that they were thrown from the car into the cliffs or the surf.
March 31st, 2018, officials revealed the speedometer on the Hart's wrecked SUV was pinned at 90 miles per hour.
Intentional.
Yeah.
On April 2nd, 2018, officials say the crash may have been intentional, saying data taken from the family's SUV shows the vehicle came to a complete stop at the Route 1 pullout before speeding off the cliff. The search for the missing children becomes a recovery effort.
On April 2nd, 2018, he says, "I'm to the point where I'm no longer calling this an accident. I'm calling it a crime." Mendocino County Sheriff Tom Allman.
So on April 7th, 2018, an unidentified body believed to be that of a Black female is found in the ocean near the site of the crash. Officials say an identification could take weeks.
April 13th, 2018, California Highway Patrol office officials tell reporter Jennifer Hart had a blood alcohol level of 0.102 when she drove the SUV off the cliff the previous month. Now, Julie, what's the regular, what's the legal?
It's definitely lower than that. Hold on. Legal alcohol.
Captain Bruce Carpenter also told reporters toxicology reports indicated Sarah Hart had a significant amount of the ingredient, primarily in Benadryl.
0.08, Kelley.
Oh.
And she was 0.102.
Shit. That's a lot. So Sarah Hart was found with Benadryl in her system. 2 of the 3 girls also had Benadryl-type substances in their systems.
I bet you Jennifer fucking drugged them.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And, I'm getting chills. I've got goosebumps on my arm. I just bumped the microphone. Sorry. I'm getting all worked up here.
It's upsetting.
April 17th, 2018. You know what's weird? Sorry, side note. When we're like going through dates, specific dates for things, especially if it's like semi recently, where I'm able to kind of remember around what happened to me around that time.
Yeah.
It is just so strange to associate certain personal experiences around the same dates and think that at that time that was happening and I had no idea and I wasn't able to help.
I was thinking the same thing because, I remember 2016 so well. I mean, I just moved to Colorado. I, was like so staunchly like I just into Bernie. Like I was like excited. I was hopeful. And I remember specifically some of these periods of time. And it's so hard to just think about that and know what you were doing and what was happening while you were oblivious. And it just not only does it make you feel helpless, but it also makes you feel like pause a little bit and be like, well, what's happening out there right now?
Right now.
Right
Exactly.
fucking now. What can I do to ensure that other kids have a better shot?
Exactly.
So
exactly. And it's not just kids, it's just tragedies in general. To associate those dates around, like we were just talking about, and then to be completely oblivious.
I mean, I flew back from Paris the day before the Charlie Hebdo attacks. So it was just so weird to get back and turn around and look at the news. And I was like, oh, shit. All right. Anyways.
Sorry. I digress.
Mm-hmm.
All right. On April 17, 2018, authorities announced that the body found in the Pacific Ocean surf near the crash site April 7th belongs to Sarah Hart, age 12. Her legal name is Sierra. They spelled it differently. So, two of her siblings, Devontae and Hannah Hart, remain missing. They are presumed dead. The FBI has posted missing person flyers for both children on its website.
In the article by the Oregonian, Devontae Hart family crash, friend reported mom's pushes for child abuse registry. The article says that the horrific crash, which killed mothers Jennifer and Sarah Hart, both 38, and at least 3 of their children, came days after a visit to the family's Woodland, Washington home by Child Protective Services. Authorities on Friday said toxicology reports show Jennifer Hart was drunk when she drove the SUV off a cliff. Sarah Hart and 2 of the other kids also had a significant amount of an ingredient commonly found in Benadryl, which can make people sleepy, according to the Associated Press.
More from the article Withering Under the White Gaze. For days after the deadly crash, some people were refusing to even entertain the possibility of foul play because it did not compute with the familiar white savior narrative Jennifer and Sarah embodied. We will probably never know what went through the mind of Jennifer Hart when she decided to drive her SUV over a cliff and into the Pacific Ocean, though the song lyrics of one of her favorite bands might lend a clue. What we do know for sure is that she and perhaps also her partner had ceased to see these children as beings worthy of living their own lives. With CPS closing in after more allegations of abuse, they must have foreseen the imminent destruction of the image they had carefully cultivated. At least one of them must have found it impossible to keep up the illusion of a picture-perfect, progressive family. Illusions. One main function of the white gaze is the reinforcing of illusions that justify, support, and perpetuate white supremacy. When Devontae was hugging a police officer and giving validations to the mythical good cop narrative, his image was splashed across evening news for days, and he even was given international attention. Not only did this image make white people feel warm and fuzzy inside, it supported a very specific worldview. Now that it appears his white adopted mothers likely murdered him after years of abuse, the attention is less forthcoming. It's very possible that if Devontae and his siblings were white, this case would be getting much more media attention. It would be filed under general salacious tragedy, like John Benet Ramsey and Casey Anthony or Kaylee?
I don't know if the kid was called Kaylee.
Oh, Kelley Anthony, whose cases received massive coverage for years.
This case, however, must be downplayed. Not only does it obliterate the white savior myth and present white people as the killers of black children, it's also happening during a time of heightened racial tension following a string of police murders of black people. The Irish gays, the French gays, the Hungarian gays, the German gays, to my knowledge, these terms are not often used. They denote seeing the world through the lens of a particular European culture, through the eyes of a particular ethnicity with ties to a specific language and culture. The white gaze, by comparison, is like the empty, glassy stare of a reptile poised to strike. It is the act of looking and observing from the perspective of a predator. It is inherently sinister. Yes, the origin of the white gaze is de facto sinister because from the beginning and at its core, whiteness was created as a tool with which to bludgeon non-white peoples and force them into submission. Whiteness was created to supersede various ethnic and religious differences among Europeans and unite them in the goal of enslavement, colonization, white supremacy, and world domination. There is no there, as the saying goes. Withering means to shrivel, fade, decay, to lose the freshness of youth, as from age, cause to lose freshness, bloom, vigor, to affect harmfully, to abash, as by a scathing glance. And guys, let me add with my own commentary here really fast that I'm currently reading this book. Okay, to do yourself a favor is like here really quickly. I'm so sorry. Julia, this is going off topic. Not off topic, but
I do that after like every single paragraph I read, so don't worry about it.
I'm reading this book called Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi. And it's basically a very in-depth history of everything. Let's see if I can do this without playing it. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm already like 8 chapters in and I started this morning, but it's the definitive history of racist ideas in America. I just sent it to one of our family members who has not responded. But then I also finished, someone I used to work with recommended that I read the book. The past is beautiful. Oops. Sorry, guys.
What's happening?
I've got my Audible up because I was hoping to look at the the description, but it's called Educated by Tara Westover. Julia, I mean it. You really, really, really need to read it. I'm going to send it to you.
Send me the screenshots or the links to these.
I will. But it's
because I will not remember.
Do yourself a favor, everybody, and read Educated. Right, meow. And then I'm
right meow.
I'm currently in, the other book, but I highly recommend it. But I don't think I can stress enough that Stamped Stamped from the Beginning. It is like all of the bits of our nation's history, and not just our nation's history, but this goes back to like pretty much when we can identify racism as being pushed into our rhetoric. And that kind of, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, starts in the early 1400s. But it is so revealing to hear all of this history this guy painstakingly lays out in this timeline of our, of what we've been taught all of these years and where it comes from and why it came about. And it's maddening, but it's also important that we pay attention because we're not out of it. We're still totally in the mire of these, racial tensions and these tensions that have been really constructed for us. And I just want you to know that like this story here is very pertinent, even though it is recent. Like you just look at all of these protests we've been having about police reform lately. This is vital in that context as well as the homeschooling context. So, sorry.
Okay. No, don't apologize.
Sorry.
Send me the links to all of those, please.
Oh, I will.
Thank you. All right. Now, Let's talk about all the important takeaways here from the Hart family's case. Argyropoulos emailed the Oregonian Oregon Live. I believe each abuse case investigation's outcome would have been different if the state agencies had access to all prior information. The parents appear to have been aided by limited communication between state agencies and the absence of a central nationwide registry for child abuse or child welfare reports. This Diet Coke is giving me a rough time.
Sorry.
Oh, the carbonation is ruining every time it's my turn to talk. Note for next time. Water. Yeah. How is it in this great country of ours? 2 mothers with a history of reported child abuse in 3 states, disclosed by at least 6 adults over a 10-year span, still have custody of 6 children. A woman who reported Devontae Hart's parents to Oregon child welfare officials nearly 5 years ago is now pushing for the creation of a national child abuse registry. Thank you for your support, Kelley. I look at you whenever I start messing up.
I think you got this.
I'm sorry.
Am I mouthing the words like a parent does when they're trying to help their kids?
You know, I haven't seen you do that. You're just like,
okay. If I do that, I'm sorry.
Just like looking at me, very encouraging, like, yeah. Okay, I'm going to start that sentence over again. Okay, thanks, guys, for your patience. A woman who reported Devontae Hart's parents to Oregon child welfare officials nearly 5 years ago is now pushing for the creation of a national child abuse registry. Alexandra Argyropoulos launched an online petition. Protect Our Children, call for a national child abuse registry 2 weeks after the Hart family's GMC Yukon plunged off a cliff. I can't read. Along the California coast, an incident investigators believe was intentional. Argyropoulos created her petition on the popular We the People website, which the federal government oversees. If it gathers 100,000 signatures by May 9th, White House officials will respond to it. This tragic story is just one of many that highlight our immediate need for reform, she said. We can provide state agencies resources they need to investigate reports of abuse thoroughly.
Little side note, guys. I looked this up. I looked up what she did, Argyropoulos. Sorry, I'm going to find this because this is very important. So when was this, Julia? 2018?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I looked it up and it says the link, they included the link to this thing, this call for action. So signature count. Do you want to guess out of the 100,000 needed, how many people signed?
No, how many?
1,382. So
what?
The petition is closed because this petition has been archived because it did not meet the signature requirements. It can no longer be signed. Now, and this is what was their kind of call to action. It said on March 26, 2018, 6 adopted children plummeted to their deaths after being driven off a California cliff by their adopted mother, who had a history of reported child abuse in 3 states, reported by 8 adults over a 10-year span. Despite the mounting reports of violence and mental abuse, this mother reigned terror over her children for more than a decade, knowing that a trail of her documented abuse would go without further investigation or consequence. We call for a national child abuse registry that would alert states of prior reports of abuse. It is our duty as a nation to protect innocent children from their abusers and to hold the perpetrators of these crimes accountable so this type of unspeakable tragedy doesn't happen again. This failing.
I feel
it gets worse. It gets worse, Julia, because the other things on there that had gotten over 100,000, I'm going there right now while you say this because I need you to hear this. Go ahead.
I feel like people feel convicted to stand up for certain causes based on their white savior complex because it becomes emotionally difficult to deal with the fact that you're now it's hard to be the white savior of a white savior situation gone wrong.
Yeah.
To be honest about that.
Yeah.
And then, because you can't be the white savior anymore, because they already tried that. And I don't think I'm making any sense.
Okay.
In my head, I've got like this thing where it's like hard for people to face uncomfortable truths, because with that, they're going to have to confront the fact that they enjoy being the white savior. And so instead, they go for more comfortable narratives instead to back for causes, because it makes them look good.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I found the other on this site, popular petitions, other petitions that other people posted on here to get signatures to, take it higher up. There's one in here that says, indict and arrest Moon Jae in for smuggling the China virus into the U.S. and endangering the national security of U.S. and ROK. Their goal was 100,000. They got 1,014,377 signatures. Terrorism to get upper hand if Carmen has representation in social media regulatory body. 100,000 signature goal, over 601,000.
I don't understand what that one's for.
Terrorism to get upper hand if Carmen has representation in social media. I don't know who Carmen is, but I'm assuming they have like a platform. And then justice for Breonna Taylor, thank God. Justice for George Floyd. Impeach Nancy Pelosi for crimes of treason. That one has 404,142. Oh, and even better, please ask New York State to overturn recent abortion expansions law. Out of the 100,000 needed, they have 323,000 and counting.
So
it goes on.
It comes down to what's popular.
Yes. Or how many crazies are out there. But like, no one seems to care about kids. I'm sorry for going off on that side tangent, but I just needed you to know, in perspective, that petition failed. And it shouldn't have. If you look at these other ones, it's common sense. It's not crazy. It's not.
Oh.
It's not it's not to the left or to the right. Like, it is straight down the middle sense. Anyways, unlike the Turpin children, another case we'll cover eventually, who were shackled and starved. So unlike the Turpins, who shackled and starved their kids in strict secrecy, the abuse of the Hart children was happening right out in the open. Most ghastly of all, it was happening under the guise of progressive values, support for activism, and under the banner of love, which is what I associate with Bernie and progressivism. So that's why this really hits right under the belt for me.
Yeah, that makes it even more important for us to come forward with this story as well, is because, I mean, these people obviously abused something that was meant to be pure. And they used it. And people will continue to do that, not only with things that we stand for, but just other political standpoints as well. It happens all the time. Like Ellen DeGeneres's attempt to come across as, this fun-loving, caring, super considerate, like, person, and then behind the scenes, it's like it's all just this monster. It's just all this disguise because it's going to push you forward for success in something of some sort.
Wow. So Jennifer and Sarah Hart quite literally had their own menagerie of starving Africans. Despite any good intentions they may have started out with, in the end, they perpetrated the abuse and murder of Black people, carrying on a long tradition. White supremacy and colonialism can appear in many different forms. They can appear as a racist police officer gunning down an unarmed Black person, a racial slur hurled towards a Native person, a mortgage broker turning away a qualified home buyer based on the color of their skin, or as a president referring to African countries as shitholes. Less well known is the pernicious influence of well-meaning liberal white supremacy, the good cop, of the colonial system. Less examined is how settler colonialism reinforces itself through flowery language and feel-good New Age philosophy that focuses on individual feelings while avoiding challenging systems of power and privilege.
It's very likely that Jennifer Hart, the driver of the SUV, was struggling with some form of mental illness and alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
There have also been rumors of one of them having cancer. Regardless, they don't deserve any sympathy. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Most people cope with physical and mental illness without resorting to abuse and murder. Jennifer and Sarah Hart abused their adopted children for years before driving them over a cliff and into the ocean. Any good intentions they may have had were negated by the cruelty they showed up to these children, both in life and in death. Because our society favors whiteness, they were given the benefit of the doubt time and time again, even after there were clear signs of abuse and even a conviction.
Seriously. We need stronger protections for vulnerable children. Those who need mental health care must be able to access it easily and affordably. And last but not least, we must examine, challenge, and dismantle the system of white privilege that allows abusers to operate with impunity. If Jennifer and Sarah Hart were Black, Native, or Latinx, those kids would have been removed from the home long ago. Now these children are gone and their potential unfulfilled. We must do what we can to make sure their deaths are not in vain. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah. Via Facebook, Jen Hart showed a carefully curated version of the family's life. One she acknowledged in a November 2016 post creates a semi-false sense of reality. Neighbors and former friends have said they saw a darker side, including Jennifer Hart berating or punishing children for ordinary childhood behavior. Jennifer Hart chronicled her approach to homeschooling her 6 adopted children in photos and stories shared online. The children learned by doing. Biology lessons came from tending the family's chickens and growing plants from seed at the home they bought in Woodland, Washington last year. Jennifer Hart studied to become an elementary school teacher at Northern State University, a state school in South Dakota where she grew up. But she never graduated, the school confirmed. Her wife, Sarah, earned a degree in elementary education from the school. There's no record of her ever being licensed as a teacher or applying to be one in South Dakota or Minnesota. She worked outside the home, most recently at Kohl's. The couple adopted the children from foster care in Southeast Texas. Marcus, Hannah, and Abigail in September 2006. Then Devontae, Jeremiah, and Sierra in February 2009, 3 years later. Texas adoption policy means the couple would have been paid a stipend to help raise each child until they were at least 18. So this had financial benefits as well.
Absolutely.
Fucking disgusting.
Yeah. So a 2013 independent review found Oregon child welfare workers weren't faithfully following official guidance on child welfare investigations and needed retraining. The review found wide deviations from the state's official standards in many units, branches, and regions. In a small survey, fewer than 10% of child welfare supervisors said they understood the information that workers needed to gather about each child, which included their degree of isolation. Clackamas County child welfare supervisors did not undergo the retraining, the outside experts said, was needed to correct that problem until November 2013, after the Hart case had been closed. Lois Day, who became Oregon's child welfare director in 2011, was fired for poor performance in 2016. Under the protocol written in 2012 and covered in the 2013 retraining, social workers must look for signs that the children may be isolated and seek opinions from people outside the family. Among the questions caseworkers are instructed to consider: does the child have access to individuals who can protect them? Do they have a place to go for help? Do they have friends, relatives, neighbors they can talk to? How often? Do they have access to a phone, a computer?
Jennifer and Sarah Hart had been estranged from their families in South Dakota for years, relatives, friends, and law enforcement sources say. The children last attended school in April 2011 when they lived in Minnesota. So that was 7 years before the murder. Mm-hmm. Okay. After they moved to West Linn in 2012 or 2013, next door neighbor Bill Groner observed that the family kept to themselves, and the children generally remained indoors, even in good weather. Friends say Jennifer and Sarah Hart made sure none of the children had cell phones or a social media presence and kept them from surfing the internet. Even close friends of the Harts did not visit them at their home, several said in interviews after the deaths. The closest neighbor to the family's final home in rural Woodland, Washington, told child protective workers the blinds were kept closed at all times. The children would literally run from the car into the house, and one son told them his parents purposely hid their children. The boy said he and his siblings didn't speak up about their parents' abuse because they feared the six of them would be split up. Neighbor Dana DeCall told child welfare workers. Something just didn't seem right, Gruner recalled. They were very isolated in the home.
Written materials that date back to 2012 instruct Oregon child welfare workers to ask whether children attend school, have ever attended school, or are homeschooled. But a spokeswoman said caseworkers aren't required to check whether families complied with the state's baseline requirement for homeschooling, which is to register each child with a local education service district.
This isn't just about the schooling aspect, guys. Anytime. It should be there, even if it's with good intentions. I think anytime a parent wants to keep a child from being in the public view on a daily basis and wants to keep them at home under their eye, that raises a red flag to me. Sure, it can be disproven by the person's agenda and by them going through the correct process and setting up the perfect atmosphere and environment for this kid's learning. But the intention to homeschool a kid raises a red flag for me every fucking time.
Well,
and it should for these caseworkers, because to me...
Well, and the fact alone that, they didn't register, they didn't even do the baseline requirement,
which is like
their state.
Little to none.
It is like just saying they're removing the kids from school and that they're homeschooling. And I believe they also, so Oregon also has this stipulation that your child be tested, or that you send in records that your kid is tested at like 3rd grade, 8th grade. There's several different grade levels, but in my further research, it does show that there is no follow-up. No one is making sure that these tests are taking place. So it's basically on paper to look like, yeah, we're checking in on these kids. No one is assigned to check in on these families. And no one is checking in with the families that are yanking their kids from school and not even registering as homeschooling families. No one's even going to check in and be like, hey, you're 30 days past the deadline. What's up? Go ahead. I'm a caseworker. I'm here. We'll go ahead and sign your papers right now. Let's go ahead and file it. And you get your eyeballs on each of those kids.
Yeah. They need to be on the radar, because that's how they fall through the cracks.
Yeah, that's the bare minimum.
Stuff like this happens.
So, withdrawing a child from public school is a common reaction by some parents to a child welfare investigation, says Chelsea McCracken, who's a research analyst at the Coalition for Responsible Home Education. The Massachusetts-based group tracks cases of fatal and extreme abuse and neglect of children who are homeschooled. Families often move to another state where there is no record of their children ever existing, she said. The local school has no way of knowing that a brood of children has moved into their area.
See, there's a difference between excessive government oversight, okay? And then common sense protocols put into place to ensure people are taken care of.
If I can get fined for not getting my dog's shots done, like if Maisie, bless her heart, were to like savagely bite a little kid, would never happen. She's an angel. Right. I could get fined there could be repercussions, not only, her death or being put down, but like I would be charged, I would be responsible for her actions.
Exactly.
And that we don't even have like bare minimums for these parents. It's like it's like a joke. If there are quote unquote laws, there's not even, you don't even have to abide by those. You can flout them because you think you're better than that. And no one's going to check up on you. There's just not enough money, time, or people. Go ahead, Julie.
Because they were already homeschooling when they left and they moved to another state, there's no mechanism in place to ensure the family enrolls in school when they move in another state, McCracken said. The Harts moved to West Lynn. Jennifer Hart wrote in 2012 that her wife was laid off from her job in Minnesota and had found a job in Oregon. They may also have left their child abuse history behind. There is no central nationwide registry for child abuse or child welfare reports, something Argyropoulos is now working to change. She hopes others will join her by signing a petition. Public schools, by design, have become one of the places where children showing signs of abuse or neglect are most likely to be noticed and have their condition brought to official attention. A 2007 law requires every Oregon school employee to undergo yearly training on how to spot signs that a child's welfare is endangered. That sounds great. That's not infringement upon freedoms. That's not a scary government shit thing. It's like, this is people putting stuff into place to make sure kids are fucking taken care of. This isn't, we're going to go take your kids away. Like, it's not that easy. Obviously, look at this.
But guess what, guys? Our parents had us running scared like little rabbits over the government, over the federal government being out to break up the family. They were against the wholesome Christian families to the point where they wanted to swoop in, and take away your kids.
We were all going to be separated. We'd never see each other again. I'd never see you again, Kelley.
It's mind-boggling. So neither one of Oregon or Washington agencies that were supposed to be alerted about Jennifer and Sarah Hart's decision to homeschool had any record of the Hart children. They didn't even know they existed. Although there's no way to measure how prevalent homeschooling under the radar is, because it is wildly prevalent, guys. McCracken of the National Homeschooling Monitor Group described the practice as fairly common. In Oregon, as in most states, homeschool regulators are not proactive. Many Oregon homeschooling families don't notify their educational service district, not because they're trying to avoid the law, but because they never get around to it, said Lori Walker. That's just giving them a little bit too much credit.
That's called the white savior benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, like that's another thing. It's like you're flouting the law, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Walker said that while she knows people who have heard from their local district, the agencies are not generally known for enforcing the law. No one ever contacted her family for test scores, even though an education service district can require families to test their children in grades 3, 5, 8, and 10. She said, I just kept them in a little file knowing that if they ever did ask for them, they were there.
You know what? There are more requirements and government follow-up and repercussions for me to get a driver's license.
Yeah.
Even if all I'm driving is a fucking moped.
All of these points here are making me think of Educated, the book, and parts that I wish I could talk to you about, but I can't yet.
Okay, well, I'll read it. I'll read it so we can talk about it. Vicky, the computer just went down a lot. Where'd it go? There it is. Hi, I'm back. Vicky Walker, a former state senator from Eugene and no relation to Lori Walker, sponsored the 2007 law requiring annual child abuse warning signs training for teachers. She said she believes Oregon homeschooling rules are too lax and help parents who harm their children evade detection. That's exactly right, lady. How do we wrap our protective arms around these children, she said. Oregon child welfare officials need to make sure the deck isn't stacked against children whose parents isolate them, Paul said. When the agency receives allegations of harm, child welfare workers investigate, seeking corroboration, he said. But obtaining that evidence can be especially difficult when children aren't regularly seen by teachers, medical professionals, neighbors, or other outside of the family. Workers must recognize it can take more effort on their part to confirm allegations of caregiver harm if such harm is occurring for those children than for their more typically situated peers.
Child welfare workers are obligated and were clearly required by agency rules in 2013 to interview each child separately and privately away from parents and siblings to learn how the child is being treated at home, Paul said. He assumes that happened when caseworkers visited the Hart's West Lynn home. And our group list said that the caseworker told her it did. Isolating a child, including by homeschooling and relying on alternative medicine, is not a threat to children's safety in and of itself, she noted. Child welfare workers have no power to compel such parents to send their child to a pediatrician or agree to a follow-up welfare check from a caseworker. Instead, they must convince a judge that the child faces danger, so the child welfare agency should be given power over the child. The agency does not have the legal ability to mandate a parent participate in services or that a child participate in services without the court ordering it, Stone said. So to these parents, I'm going to just pretend there's a homeschooling parent looking me in the eye right now. If you are a homeschooling parent who hates the government and sees it as an evil entity that's trying to break up your wholesome family, guess what? Stop telling your children that everyone's out to get them. There are more loopholes that keep them from helping your child than there are for potential instances of your child to be removed. You have to do some really insane shit for anything to happen to you. But guess what? You can do better, and you should. I am just appalled at how we manage this. I mean, honestly, Julia, I don't think homeschooling should be legal if we cannot get some common sense, decent laws passed to protect children.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's not saying that there aren't people who do this correctly.
Right.
It's just the number that don't, I believe, far outnumbers you guys.
And this is
alarming.
These ladies didn't homeschool their kids because they thought they could offer their kids a better future or a better education. They, for a myriad of reasons, I mean, my concept is that they wanted to isolate the kids, keep them from being around people like adults, like teachers who could spot the abuse and do something about it.
For having them available for controlled outings when it would best support the image they were curating.
Yeah. I mean, and also, I mean, I'm sure, and it sounds like they didn't have a curriculum. They weren't doing school. So
their version of biology was just
feeding the chickens
and gardening.
I mean,
there's more to biology than that.
And they're both of those women wanted to be elementary school educators. They know better. They
That's
had
even scarier to me.
They had no intention of following through and making sure that schooling was taking place. It was just a cover for their abuse. And their abuse of these children wasn't that they loved them so much they were hard on them. These kids were like a meal ticket for them. And they starved these kids so they could buy a house and use the money that the government's okay as long as it's paying you to take care of these kids until they're 18.
And the thing is, too, where the government really fucking pisses me off is, after watching the Making a Murderer, and especially season 2, that was even better than season 1. Like, this season 2 was amazing. And just to get a little bit more insight on what happened with Brendan Dassey, the government's okay with letting children get convicted for false testimonies and putting them away for life and then never giving them the light of day.
Yeah.
But then they let shit like this happen. So it's okay. It's okay. Everything around children with the government and with just the way they get treated and their lack of rights, period. They have rights when it serves people, when it serves the agenda. And like for this case, they were trying to get Stephen Avery convicted. And this ended up putting Brendan away for life, and he didn't even realize. He was thinking that if he said what he needed to say, he would be able to go back home and watch WrestleMania. basically like they had basically coerced him. They coerced the shit out of him.
We heard what was the case I was telling you about recently about when they it was Joseph Hall and how they were telling him that like he didn't even understand his Miranda rights when they were read to him. And they knew this. They knew he didn't understand. They had no intention of providing him with a lawyer or a parent that would be there to guide them through the process. I know cops do what they can to try and solve these cases, but I find that, I mean, across the board, it should be like those kids should be able to be legally represented. Or it should be mandated that anyone under the age of, I would say 16 at least.
Yeah, if you aren't going to listen to the testimony of a child that's asking for help in an abusive home situation, don't fucking convict them on their own testimonies.
That's a great place to end this, Julia. Julia, you just rip your mic off of the stand and chuck it on the ground.
So pissed off. Kids are fucked.
I feel like if I can slow-mo that section of you saying that, I will, because that should be viral. That was good, Julia. Thank you for that.
I got one cohesive sentence out from this whole thing.
Okay, so we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to repeat these. Do yourself a favor. Go read Educated. Go read Stamped from the beginning. Important stuff, guys. Like, we have got to educate ourselves and we have got to be accountable. And Julie and I realize our abuse and our situation isn't even the worst of it. And
no. It's just really given enough awareness into the fact that this is a thing.
So we have got to get active on this. So we will continue this conversation next week. We're going to dive into some really, really interesting facts that are so important for you to understand and some tools to arm you with. But for today, we would like to request that you guys hit subscribe, please. Yes. Please give us some stars, 5 stars.
Go to the podcast app and give us a 5-star review.
And visit our website,
www.thefamilytiespodcast.com.
Check out our summaries. Leave some comments. We would love to have more comments to read out to you guys and discuss.
Even if you disagree with us on something, like we had I freaking love the comment that we got.
Japanese pumpkin. Thank you. Please comment again.
Week. Yeah. I mean, it was just so eloquently put. Yeah. And, it's important to create a dialogue, period. Even if it's not saying, oh, I 100% agree with you guys. It's like, if you have like another point that maybe we haven't addressed yet, or maybe if you've had a different experience, like, let us know.
And
we'd like to hear it.
Also, actionable items for the moment. Julia, I'm going to say this mainly to you. Everybody else, I think you should do it too, but I'm going to do it because I think it's my challenge to Julia. My personal challenge to you is to match my donation on the Coalition for Responsible Homeschooling. I went and I am a monthly donor. I cannot do massive amounts of money, so I am doing a $10 a month donation. Match it.
I could do $5.
There you go.
And do $5. I can't.
Or you could do a one-time donation. That's cool too. But
I could do the five monthly.
Yeah, but I want to make it something where it's like, okay, I am actually putting my money where my mouth is. And in addition to that, sign up to be a volunteer, whether that mean be a part of a local state chapter. That's my goal. I know that those haven't fully been built yet, but I want to be someone who is speaking with my representatives. I want it to happen now. Like, who can I talk to and can I start this chapter now? I will start it. This is how passionate I am about it, guys. There are so many kids we talked about the numbers. 1 kid every 10 seconds is being reported. And it takes a lot for people to report kids, report seeing stuff. It's not, we have this kind of turn and look away, you know? It's not like we have this like urge to just call anybody who looks like they're mean. We need to start empowering our government to support what's most precious. And if that is life, if you're one of those pro-lifers and you think all life is precious,
then this is a perfect role for you.
This is the perfect challenge for you. Will you back it up with action? Will you be an advocate for children out there in your country? And you know, we see a lot of things on the TV that are like, give to the African children. And while I think that's fantastic, we're ignoring what's right in front of us and right next door and across the street from us. So do not be blind. Be better. Or as as our first lady said,
be best.
Be best. Oh, God.
Did you hear some of the recording that came out of her like pissed
talking
off?
about the children? Talking about children, guys. She hates children. Or she's like,
poor me. Like, oh, and then I had to do the Christmas decorations, you know?
Who the fuck cares about Christmas? And then
that was the best thing ever.
And she's like, and then they want to complain at me for kids in cages. What the fuck?
And then she's all about, and they were telling me like, oh, I get a bed. I haven't had a bed or a cabinet to put my own things in before or whatever. And like,
she's
this is amazing. As if she's trying to like make the situation better.
Like, I have a bed.
Fuck you, Melania.
Yeah, fucking
monster.
All of you. Anyways.
That's amazing. If I had that ability to turn situations,
this could be her platform.
Into that positive of a light
platform.
I would be like so happy if I had the ability to spin situations like that negative in my life into something that positive, to where it seemed like this is actually, the kids love this. They're getting a bed. I don't think they are. Or they're getting something to put their stuff in. Oh, so separating them from their parents and keeping them in prison like in a fucking concentration camp is okay now because this is better than what they had.
Our protection of life, children and babies, we have got to look in the mirror for a second because we are failing miserably. On that positive note, obviously our first lady doesn't care about children.
Or Christmas decorations,
or
Kelley.
Fucking Christmas.
That was my favorite part. Oh, fucking
like, come on, give me a break.
This is the best thing ever.
I shouldn't be laughing because it is appalling. Just picture in your mind, if a recording of fucking Michelle Obama had come out where she was even slightly sounding Scroogey, they'd be like, the war on Christmas continues. Can't. Anyways, we love you. Please rate and review.
Michelle taking Christ out of Christmas again.
Be best, guys.
And don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. All right. Bye.
Sometimes I do have to learn that lesson for myself. I've been a dick a couple times before. Yeah. But, so when I'm saying that, I'm not saying I'm absolutely
When we say don't be a dick, it means don't hurt others intentionally. And if you do hurt someone accidentally, acknowledge it.
Even if it's on purpose, acknowledge it.
Acknowledge it.
Or unintentionally, acknowledge it. But you can move forward. But
try.
Just don't make it a lifestyle.
Yes. Try to improve it and be best. I can't stop myself. We love you guys. Join the family.
Join the family. We love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.